This nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update, episode 858. What is fun? Enjoy. Next question is from Stray. We now know that the new executive producer for RuneScape 3 worked on Old School. Presumably some of their design philosophy will carry over. Hopefully not in the form of pulling out every update or something like RuneLabs. So how would you feel about a ModLabs approach where devs could pitch their passion projects to the player? Also, do you think that the Golden Party Hat Hunt was part of the new executive producer's influence? Possibly an example of the type of nostalgia-focused updates we might be getting. I feel like ModLabs could... question. Yeah, it is. Because I feel like ModLabs could be effectively their game jam sessions they used to do on steroids.
Well, it could be. But this question just got me because I'm like, this is the simplest, most genius thing that I can't believe no one thought of until I just read it here.
Oh, okay. So you're a huge fan of it then?
I think so, because what was RuneLabs missing? People that knew what they were talking about. If you actually had that, maybe voting on these things wouldn't be so bad, and watching how they rise up and what comes up.
But at the same time, you want to be careful that you don't pit developer against developer.
Well, now
I'll just say
that competition, though, Shane?
I know.
I would think that Mr. Free it would be all about that.
It's good to have some discussion on this like that, but I also feel as though there needs to be developer supremacy in that if the team feels that a certain piece of content needs to go forward, that definitely should happen. But at the same time, it shouldn't be, who is going to be voted off the island sort of approach for the Jmod, right?
Well, right. But that's another way that the RuneLabs failed, right? Because there was supposed to be regular content along with that, and we didn't see the same kind of... Right. So if you were to do that and then let this be that that boilerplate, like what you're talking about with the player avatar and keeping that up. Hey, are we getting it? Are we getting it? Hey, where's our construction we work? Hey, I think that kind of stuff, if a developer kind of took it and said, okay, well, here's my vision for it. See if people get behind it or not.
I don't know.
I think it's genius.
Okay. The part I'm not 100% sold on is that I feel as though we're at a stage with RS3 where a good number of the pieces of content aren't just, a developer saying, hey, I'll make Romeo and Juliet, right? Or, hey, I'll make an agility skill, as how skills like that in the RS2 and classic days came about. Mm-hmm. I think we're at a point where there needs to be a cohesive vision of what the storyline looks like going forward, and the updates that funnel into that in terms of how do we advance the storyline and what kind of content do we do that with. This year it was obviously Battle of the Monolith as an Audra's Quest, City of Sintistan, and the Elder God Wars fronts, right? But what if instead of making it individual passion projects, what if, every quarter, 2 quarters a year, you just have a bit of a discussion and a round table, let's just say, with the community to gather information about where things could go and use that to set the direction for 2 quarters ahead, and then have the other 2 quarters in effect be set by the studio themselves. And then you could have, if you consider this year, from May until November is basically just 100% Elder God Wars from Battle of the Monolith into the fronts. Boom, 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 right?
Yeah.
That's about 6 months worth of content, 2 quarters. You could stack the 2 Jagex quarters together, and you could stack the 2 player-decided quarters together. Or you could split them apart if they're smaller. In that, same sort of way. So I think it needs to be more generalist rather than having it come from individual devs. Because I don't think we live in a world where devs are pitching the majority of the content. Sure, we could have maybe this would be a good thing to do would be a developer passion quarter, where you have 4 updates that are in effect voted on by the community that are developer passion projects. But yet again, you fall back into that same problem of pitting the developers against one another, which I'm really not a fan of. So I think if anything, you got to take it up one level, and if you were to do this, in effect, just allow the players to vote on certain themed quarters or certain themed months as is set by the design team. Don't, in effect, put it down to the individual developer. Just take it up to the general design level, I think.
I was going to ask
That's how
you,
I do it.
Do they still work in those Scrum teams? Because you put it forward as a team.
You could,
this team
yeah. I'm not entirely sure what the team breakdown is at this point. It's been a long time since we have heard anything about that, as to who works with who, and if there's hard teams,
probably
with
been
hard
movement
edges and whatnot, right? So
yeah, well, and there's always movement, but there's probably been even more lately.
Yeah, and when it comes down to it, do you think the RuneScape 3 player base would like having pulled updates like old school?
Well, I don't know what subset.
Right.
For the most part, I don't think people will care as long as they're entertained.
Yeah.
What I like about that idea is just that players aren't designers and they don't know what's good for the game. And where if this was, mods putting stuff together, they wouldn't propose something that would be detrimental. They would be proposing something that, everything on there would be good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Every one of the things could be something that could come in game. Oh, that's realistic.
Right. But here we're going back to that thing of having individualistic kind of updates that don't have a cohesive theme about them. And if you look back, 2020 was Archaeology, 2021 was Elder God Wars.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back to before 2020?
I don't, but apparently Jagex does, because they took the direction away.
And, old school executive producer speaks volumes, but we'll just have to wait and see what that means, I think.
Right.
You can find full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. If you found this video useful or just enjoyed it, like and subscribe, or leave a comment.